At 10 a.m. on Tuesday, April 20, 1999, Eric Harris and David Colonge arrived at Columbine High School in separate cars. The two students embarked on a massacre, killing 12 students and a teacher and injuring many others before committing suicide. Both were fans of violent video games such as Dune and Wolfenstein 3D. Since then, as well as before the tragedy, researchers have analyzed the effects of violent video games on players. In September 2000, the Federal Trade Commission wrote an article, Marketing Violent Entertainment to Children, a review of self-regulation and industry practices in the motion picture, music recording, and electronic gaming industries, which was requested by former President Clinton shortly after the shooting. Thus, I claim that violent video games have a negative influence on the players. First, violent video games teach players how to defy authority and engage in violent behaviors. Second, violent video games affect the player's performance in schools. And lastly, violent video games affect the physical framework of players. My first point, violent video games teach players how to defy authority and engage in violent behaviors, has been studied by several researchers and proven through real-life and lab experiments. Video games, as interactive media, have certain qualities that teach players many acts of violence. They require active participation in enabling rehearsal and practice of violent acts. They reward game players for simulated acts of violence, and they enable the identification of the participant with a violent character. That is, a bad guy always exists, and moreover, the player can choose whether they want to be the bad guy or the good guy. In the game BioShock, for example, the player may choose to kill characters called Little Sisters, who are female children, or they can rescue them. However, killing them rewards the player with 160 atoms, which are points used to buy power, and rescuing them only gives them 80 atoms but earns the thanks of Tenenbaum, which is a character, in a form of a gift for every 3 rescues. Thus, violence leads to reward. The main strategy of games such as Grand Theft Auto is to steal cars and run away from police. In a real-life scenario, Linda Pempenbrick, who studied the behaviors of those who play violent video games, reported that when 8-year-old Devin Moore was arrested for stealing a car, he grabbed a pistol from the police officer and gunned down 3 officers in less than a minute. His actions resembled the actions taken in Grand Theft Auto, which he played for months before the incident. In a statistical analysis, as stated in Popular Culture magazine in 2005, a recent Gallup poll found that 71% of all teenage boys who have played the Grand Theft Auto games found that they are twice as likely to engage in acts of violence than those who have not played the game. In another real-life scenario, on September 4, 2003, a 15-year-old boy shot 2 fellow students, killing one and critically wounding the other. According to his neighbors, he obsessively played the game Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Through scientific analysis, Pempenbrick shows that because the brain is not fully developed until young adulthood, video game use may idle and impoverish the development of the prefrontal cortex, the portion of the brain associated with decision-making and behavior control, as well as the development of memory, moral judgment, and learning. Such researches have been proven through MRI scans of teens playing violent video games that show decreased brain activity in the frontal lobe. Moreover, during violent video games, emotional parts of the brains were shut down. As my second supporting claim states, violent video games affect the player's performance in schools. Not only does the amount of time that kids spend playing video games correlate with their poor grades in school and their problems with attention, but their aggressive behavior caused by violence viewed while playing influences aggression at school. David Walsh, president and founder of the National Institute on Media and the Family, found that violent video game addiction has led some children to fail out of school, alienate themselves from everyone in their lives, and in extreme cases commit suicide. Walsh's study also states that only 1 in 10 adolescents admit to play so much that it sometimes hurts their educational performances. Now that we have covered the psychological results of playing violent video games, let us focus on the physical consequences. As my third claim states, violent video games affect the physical framework of players. Because violent video games lead to aggressive behaviors, players are more likely to get physically hurt and abused. They are almost more likely to hurt others as well. Walsh's team of researchers found that playing a large amount of violent video games increased children's risks of physical aggression in schools by 42% over children who did not play violent video games. Elizabeth Carl, who studied the link between aggression and violent video games, concluded, sexualized violence in the media has been linked to increases in violence towards women, the acceptance of rape myths, and anti-women attitudes. In conclusion, violent video games negatively impact the psychological and physical frameworks of players. Violent video games are harmful because they are interactive, brain-engrossing, and require the player to identify with the aggressor. And therefore, I state that violent video games are harmful because first, they teach players how to defy authority and engage in violent behaviors. Second, they affect the player's performance in schools. And third, they affect the physical framework of players.